Well, we're heading back to Bruges, after being there just 3 months ago on our Baltic cruise. This time we're arriving by train, and we'll be able to spend a few days there. We have a rather long 30-minute walk from the train station to the hotel, and having to maneuver our luggage over rough pavement and cobblestone streets certainly didn't make the trip easy. But the walk is worth it, passing some of Bruges' interesting sculptures and beautiful canals. We're staying at the Hotel Boterhaus, just around the corner from Bruges' main plazas, and it wasn't long until we were settled in and exploring the town. Throughout the town is a temporary art exhibit called Triennale Bruges 2015. This sculpture is called Diamond Scope and has multifaceted panels, reminiscent of a diamond, referring to the fact that in its heyday, Bruges was the center of the diamond cutting industry. Being in Berg Square, we decide to head up the 366 steps of the Belfry Tower of Bruges. The tower has been destroyed several times throughout history, but has always been rebuilt, and has been home to the city's charter, seal, public records, and treasury. Within the tower is an intricate clock mechanism and a carillon consisting of 47 silver-toned bells that toll every 15 minutes. The carillon can be played with a keyboard, with each key attached to an individual bell's clapper, or it can be played mechanically by having these programmable pins in this drum trigger hammers attached to each bell. After making our way down from the bell tower, we got some hot chocolate to warm up before walking along the beer wall at the 2B bar. Being a little early to partake, we decided to just look around, and found out that their patio is the one with the willow tree, across from where we had lunch with the family cruise 3 months ago. I found it interesting to visit a few of the places we were at during our last visit here, including where we took our canal boat tour. Wanting a late afternoon snack, we decided to have another Belgian waffle. This one, not too good. Our walk took us to Minwater Park and its lovely picturesque views. With the sun setting, we decide to enjoy some more Belgian beer, this time at a bar called La Trappiste. It's located in the cellars of an old building, just 3 minutes from our hotel. With 15 beers on tap, it was hard to decide, so we ended up with a plank of beers, 5 beers of your choice all laid out for your enjoyment. Of course, after having that many beers, it was time for a quick trip to the restroom. It seems like we've been missing out. The restrooms in these bars are attractions all on their own. Back on the streets, we were able to get some pictures of Bruges at night. This shop here has some traditional German Christmas pyramids. I've always been intrigued by them, with the wind turbine being driven by the heat of the candles. But I was really shocked by the 4-figure price. We start the day off with a very nice breakfast at the hotel, including fried eggs and an omelet, before we head on off to the Church of Our Lady. Much of the church was walled off for renovations, but we did manage to see the intricately carved pulpit. But the main attraction here is Michelangelo's sculpture Madonna and Child. After leaving the church, we stumbled across this art gallery. Here she's playing with a porcupine. Ouch! One thing I missed on our last trip was tasting a Ghent nose, so I got to try one this time. We also picked up a couple more chocolate bars at Dumond's before making our way to Town Hall for our afternoon bike tour. After waiting around a while, our guide finally showed up and said that he was canceling the tour since we were the only ones that signed up. He recommended a place to rent some bikes, and recommended a nice bike ride along some canals toward a town called Dom. It was all for the best, since Marianne's tailbone was bothering her, and we could travel at our own pace. Getting to the village, there really wasn't much there, but they were preparing for a beer and food festival that night. Just outside of town, there's a partially abandoned church called Our Lady of Dam. The cost of the maintenance on the church was too high, so they ended up walling off part of it. Now the bell tower is only connected to the main church by these few remaining walls. After making our way back, it was time for dinner, and with a recommendation from our hotel clerk, we went to the Cambrius Beer Brasserie. Marianne had a fish stew made of salmon, sole, and shrimp from the North Sea, while I had a tasty Flemish stew made with local beer. With the sun setting on the belfry tower, we say goodbye to Bruges. On the way to the train station the next morning, we passed by one of the nicest open-air markets we've seen on the whole trip. Unfortunately, we didn't have time to enjoy it, needing to catch our train to Amsterdam. Our plans call for changing trains in Antwerp. This is where things got interesting. From here on in, it seemed like every train we got on was cancelled a few stops down the line, and we had to keep scrambling to get on a new one, each one more crowded than the last. Apparently there was a derailment, and all the trains had to be rerouted. We had planned to arrive in Amsterdam at about 1:40, but instead we got in around 4. Since most of the Sunday markets had already closed, we only had time to check into our apartment and stroll around the area. Not having time for lunch, we were looking for an early dinner. We ended up at a restaurant right across the canal, where the daughter of our landlord worked. We woke up to a cold, foggy morning as we started our tour of the city. We headed toward Newmarket, where Marianne found a sweatshirt she liked. This is Town Hall Square, where they were setting up for some sort of an event this afternoon. The booths were just made of bamboo, held together by giant rubber bands. This was a fun little fantasy store. We bought gifts for both our friends and ourselves. This shop is renowned for having some of the best cookies in the world. They're okay, definitely not close to the best. Seeing the large crowd outside the Walk to Walk, we decided to have a carton of udon noodles with chicken and garlic pepper. Meanwhile, back at Town Hall Square, the celebration that they were setting up earlier was in full swing. It was an event uniting various religions in Amsterdam.
Hè? Wat? Ja, maar kinderen, ik kijk de hele tijd achter me en dan zitten jullie... Ja? Zo? Nou, dit heeft toch geen nut, kinderen, want ik zit de hele tijd te kijken en dan is hij weg.
Well, it was about time for us to start heading toward our meeting place with the Damn Boat Guys. Neil is our tour guide. 2 other partners and him rent boats for the day to give tours of the city.
This is absolutely, without a doubt, the greatest way to see the city. The alternative, unfortunately for most tourists, are the big floating tour buses, where they squeeze in like 70 or 80 people, and you're stuck behind glass, and the whole experience is super fucking touristy. This is so much better. It's clearly a smaller boat, so we can actually, communicate with each other. It's much more intimate. It is open air boat on a day like this. It's perfect because it's definitely not going to rain.
Yeah.
Now it's probably going to rain.
We spent a fair amount of time introducing each other. There were only 8 of us, a newlywed couple, and 4 guys from Italy on a bachelor party, without the groom. His future wife wouldn't let him go.
We're now entering onto the Amstel River. This is the main river in the city. This is the river that actually gave Amsterdam its name, because originally the city was called Amsterdam, which meant Amstel with a dam. And that's still where Dam Square is, because they literally put a dam on the Amstel because they needed land that was high enough and dry enough to actually build upon. The Amstel River is actually the only natural body of water in the city other than the Eye River. All of these canals that were dug, these were all dug by hand, by man, because they needed canals to divert the water from flooding the city. Basically, the main purpose of the canals is to control the inevitable floodwaters. So as they began expanding the city, they began digging more and more canals continuously. Expanding the city, digging more canals, expanding the city, digging more. In order to expand the city, they needed the help of one of the most famous Dutch symbols out there, which of course is the windmill. That leads me to the second mystery of the tour. Check it out, mark it off the list, a real live Dutch windmill. Oh, that's pretty good timing.
That was,
right?
You know that.
That was
Oh
good.
no, it's back there.
Back there.
Oh my God, I am so sorry, you guys. I am so sorry. Wait. I'm gonna need you to light that candle, please. The whole reason why I bring the candle is for under the bridge.
Where's the light?
All right.
Let's heal the moment.
All right, and let's squeeze down one more time. This might be tight.
Oh my gosh. This is so cool. What's your name? This one. God, you almost did a little too early.
Oh yeah, lots.
Oh my gosh.
All right.
Jigsaw puzzle to get back.
Actually, I would recommend just keeping the candle lit just for a few minutes. I like going over the low bridge. I think it's pretty cool. What I think, though, is the coolest thing about the low bridge is just up this way. There is absolutely nothing. We're gonna do it again. We're gonna do it again.
So are there times you can't go through because of the tide?
Not so much the tides, but if there's been like a lot of rain, then yeah, it gets tight.
Neil explains that the owners of the Dutch East India Company had a ridiculous amount of wealth and power, and the rise and fall of the company corresponded to the Golden Age, starting in 1602 and lasting for 200 years. Then when the company went bankrupt, that was the end of the Golden Age. This is a replica of the 3-masted Amsterdam, one of the Dutch East India Company's larger trading vessels. It sank in a storm off the English Channel on its maiden voyage in 1749. It was these kind of ships that traded commodities all over the world. Commodities like cotton, spices, wood, sugar, everything needed to keep a country prosperous.
That is the Zouderkerk, the South Church. Beautiful tower. And a canal that I think is so beautiful that this is where I would like to offer for you guys to take some individual group photos.
I think I remember seeing a house like this on TV. If you stretch out your arms, you can touch each wall. Well, we're back on dry land, heading toward a cheese museum with samples galore. We walked through the flower market, looking for some tulips that we might want to take home. But you can't take any on the plane, and there's only a very small selection that can actually be shipped to the United States. No, these aren't real iguanas, just statues. We stopped in at the Bulldog, where we got our magic cake on the last trip. They're now sold as smaller cupcakes, and we bought one to split for later. The next day we headed out to visit some street markets. For breakfast we split our magic cupcake. I think it was intended for one. I really didn't feel that much of the effect, but Marianne was feeling pretty happy. We ended up spending most of our time at the Albert Coop Street Market. One thing we read that we needed to try were poffages, little mini pancakes. We bought a small basket of 6 for €2. They came with a glob of butter and a dusting of powdered sugar. A nice little snack. Still a little hungry, we came across a booth serving stroopwafels. They're a thin waffle cookie with caramel or honey in between, and they were being made up fresh. After shopping for a while, we decided to head back to a fish market we passed earlier. They had a stand and they were selling fish and chips. They were light and flaky and had a nice thin crust, making for a satisfying lunch. We ended the afternoon watching a guy in Dam Square making bubbles for the kids. Our last dinner was at a Malaysian restaurant called Wah, where we split an order of a satay sampler that came with a tasty homemade peanut sauce. It's been a long trip and we've seen a lot of interesting things, but it sure is nice to be heading on home.